everybody, welcome to Folklore and Flourish. You're here today with Jane. It is a windy day outside. It's just crazy. Was wanting to do a lot more yard work than I was able to do. But whatever. Molly is here with us, but she's over there acting a fool. Anyways, today is May 26th, and it is all about the hearth today, and the theme is the home. So our lesson today is that home grows life. We're going to look at that through Roman, Norse, Japanese, and Slavic folklore today. And we are going to think about the question of where is my sanctuary? So where is my sanctuary at? Then you're going to clean one small area slowly, treating the act as tending rather than obligation. So you're going to treat the act as you're tending to your household rather than you're just always having to clean, obligated to do this or that. But you're choosing to tend to it today. And we are going to strengthen the sense of home through one mindful act of care today. On top of that, so yes, think about where is my sanctuary. Hopefully you don't have the crazy winds today and you're able to do stuff outside your home. But if not, and you are like me, do one small act inside today, deliberately tending to your home, and then do a little bit more if you'd like to. But with that, enjoy these 4 stories all about the hearth and the home. See you guys. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the cultures behind the stories we are about to explore. The tales shared here come from many peoples, lands, and traditions. I do not change these stories to fit modern expectations or to align with today's social standards. Instead, I present them as they were told, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh, sometimes challenging. We are not here to judge the past, but to understand it, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ancestors who carried these stories forward. We also share stories from various religious traditions. These are presented in their historical and spiritual context, with respect for their beliefs that they represent. Every culture deserves respect, context, and acknowledgement, and this space is dedicated to doing exactly that. Story 1, Vesta, the flame that must never go out. In the heart of ancient Rome, where stone roads stretched outward like veins from a living center, and the life of the city depended as much on unseen stability as on visible strength, there burned a flame that was never allowed to die. This was the sacred fire of Vesta, goddess of the hearth, the quiet center of both home and state, whose presence was not marked by conquest or spectacle, but by continuity. Unlike other deities who ruled sky, sea, or war, Vesta governed something more intimate and more essential: the hearth, the place where food was prepared, warmth was maintained, and life unfolded in its most ordinary and sacred rhythms. In a Roman home, the hearth was not simply functional, but foundational, a living presence that defined the household itself, marking it as a place of belonging, nourishment, and protection. To keep it lit was to maintain stability, to ensure that life continued uninterrupted, that meals could be made, that bodies could be warmed, that families could gather and remain connected through something constant. This small, contained flame mirrored something much larger, the understanding that life is not held together by grand acts alone, but by quiet repetition of care. Vesta's influence extended beyond individual homes into the very center of Rome, where her circular temple housed the eternal flame tended by the Vestal Virgins, priestesses chosen not for power, but for their ability to sustain what must not be lost. This fire was not symbolic alone. It was believed that as long as it burned, Rome itself would endure, that its light was tied directly to the stability of the people, the continuity of the state, and the unseen forces that held both together. The Vestal Virgins lived lives set apart, chosen as young girls and bound to decades of service, their existence shaped by discipline, presence, and the understanding that what they tended was far greater than themselves. Their role was both honored and heavy, for the flame they guarded could not be allowed to be extinguished, not through neglect, not through distraction, not even through accident, because its continuity was believed to reflect the continuity of Rome itself, and in its steady burning the people found assurance that what held them together had not yet fractured. The fire was fed with precision, protected from wind and rain, watched constantly, not as a dramatic act, but as a steady one, repeated quietly, daily, without pause. If the flame were ever to go out, it was considered a grave omen, a disruption not only of ritual, but of order, and the consequences were severe, not because of punishment alone, but because of what it represented, a break in the thread that connected past to present, present to future. Yet beyond the weight of responsibility there was also devotion, an understanding that tending the flame was not simply duty, but participation in sustaining life at its most foundational level. The vessels became extensions of the hearth itself, embodiments of steadiness, of care that does not announce itself, but ensures that everything else can continue. This sacred flame reflects a broader truth about home, that it is not simply a structure, but a condition created through attention, intention, and repeated acts of care. The hearth connected family members to one another, to their ancestors, and to the wider community, as each household fire mirrored the central flame of Vesta, creating a wave of continuity that extended across the city. In this way, every home became part of something larger. Every small act of tending contributed to collective stability. Yet within this system was also an awareness of fragility. Fire sustains, but it can also fade, diminish, or disappear if neglected. The Romans understood that safety, warmth, and belonging are not permanent states, but practices, maintained through presence, through effort, through the willingness to return again and again to what sustains life. Thus, the story of Vesta becomes more than a myth of a goddess. It becomes a reflection of how life is held together, not through what is dramatic, but through what is consistent. It reminds that sanctuary is not something we find once, but something we tend continuously, through small, often unseen acts that create stability over time. In every moment where we care for a space, where we protect something that could be lost, where we choose steadiness over neglect, there is the essence of Vesta's flame, a quiet, unwavering presence that asks for little attention, yet holds everything together. Story 2, Frigg, the Keeper of the Quiet Home. In the cold, wind-swept lands of the Norse world, where survival depended not only on strength in battle, but on the quiet endurance of those who held life together between storms, there lived Frigg, queen of the Aesir and the goddess of the home, weaving motherhood and foresight. Though often overshadowed by louder gods of thunder and war, Frigg's domain was no less powerful, for she governed the unseen threads that sustain life, the bonds between family, the rhythms of daily care, and the continuity of the household through seasons of both abundance and hardship. She was said to sit in her hall, Fensalier, spinning and weaving, not merely cloth, but fate itself, understanding the unfolding of events before they occurred, yet rarely intervening. Her power was not in altering destiny, but in holding steady through it, creating a space where life could continue even as uncertainty moved around it. In a culture shaped by harsh winters and unpredictable conditions, the home was not a passive place, but an active force of survival. And Frigg stood at its center, representing the care, foresight, and emotional strength required to maintain it. Frigg's most well-known story reveals the depth of this role, not through creation, but through protection, and the limits of even the greatest care. Her son, Baldur, beloved among gods and known for his light and purity, began to dream of his own death, visions that troubled both him and those around him. Frigg, sensing the danger within these dreams, moved swiftly to protect him, traveling across the world to extract oaths from all things that they would not harm her son. Fire, water, stone, metals, plants, animals, each was asked, each agreed, bound by her determination to shield what she loved. In this act, she embodies the essence of home as protection, the instinct to guard, to anticipate harm before it arrives, to create safety through vigilance. Yet in her effort, one small thing was overlooked: mistletoe, a seemingly insignificant plant she deemed too harmless to require an oath. This single omission became the opening through which Loki, ever drawn to disruption, crafted a weapon. Guiding the blind god, Hoder, he placed the mistletoe in his hand and directed the fatal strike that brought Baldur's life to an end. Despite all her foresight, all her effort, all her care, Frigg could not prevent the loss. This moment carries weight within her story. Frigg is not diminished by this failure, but deepened by it. Her grief becomes part of her power, revealing that her role of home is not to eliminate all pain, but to hold space for life in all its forms: joy, loss, protection, and mourning. In some tellings, she seeks to bring Baldur back, sending messengers across the world to ask all beings to weep for him, a final attempt to restore what was lost. Nearly everything in existence responds, honoring her request, but one figure refuses, and so Baldur remains in the realm of the dead, his absence becoming part of the world's ongoing story. Yet even here, Frigg continues. Still weaving, still holding the threads of life together, her strength is not in control, but in continuity, in all the ability to remain present, to maintain the home even when it has been altered by loss. This reflects a deeper Norse understanding that life is not secured through certainty, but sustained through resilience, through the willingness to continue caring even when outcomes cannot be guaranteed. Thus, the story of Frigg stands as a reflection of home as enduring presence, of the way life is held together not by the absence of hardship, but by the presence of care that persists through it. It reminds that protection has limits, that even the most vigilant love cannot prevent all loss. Yet what defines a home is not perfection, but persistence. In every moment where we create safety for others, where we anticipate needs, where we continue to show up even after something has been broken, there is the essence of Frigg's work. A quiet, steady weaving of life that does not demand recognition, yet forms the foundation upon which everything else stands, reminding us that home is not a fixed place, but a living act of care, carried forward through both what we can protect and what we must learn to hold. Story 3. The Kamado Spirit, the fire that remembers the home. In traditional Japanese life, where the boundary between the visible and the unseen is understood to be thin and constantly shifting, the home is not considered an empty structure, but a living space inhabited not only by people, but by presence. Among the most important of these presences is the spirit of the Kamado, the household hearth, the place where fire is lit, where food is prepared, and where daily life is quietly sustained. The Kamado is not merely a tool for cooking, but a sacred center within the home, believed to house a protective spirit that observes, remembers, and responds to the actions of those who live around it. This spirit is not distant or abstract, but intimate, tied directly to the rhythms of the household. The preparation of meals, the care given to the space, the harmony or imbalance that folds within it. In Shinto belief, kami, or spirits, inhabit natural and human-made spaces alike, in the hearth as a place of transformation, where raw food becomes nourishment, where fire turns effort into sustenance, becomes one of the most spiritually charged points in the home. To tend the hearth, then, is not simply to cook, but to participate in a relationship, to engage with something that sustains life both physically and spiritually. The presence of the Kamado spirit is often quiet, not announcing itself, not demanding ritual and grand gestures, but responding to consistency, respect, and care. In many traditions, it is believed that the spirit observes the household closely, noting the way people treat one another, the way food is prepared, the cleanliness of the space, and the overall harmony within the home. A well-tended hearth invites protection and stability, while neglect, disorder, or conflict may disturb the spirit, creating imbalance not only in the physical space, but in the energy of the household itself. This understanding reflects a deeper cultural value, that the home is not separate from the behavior of those within it, but shaped by it, influenced by the care or carelessness brought into daily life. Offerings may be made at the hearth, small gestures such as rice, sake, or simple acknowledgement, not as obligation, but as recognition of the unseen presence that shares the space. Even the act of cleaning the hearth or maintaining it properly becomes a form of respect, a way of sustaining the relationship between the visible and invisible, between the human and the spiritual. There is also within this tradition an awareness of continuity, that the hearth carries memory. It remembers the hands that have worked there, the meals that have been prepared, the voices that have gathered around it. In older homes, the kamado was passed through generations, its presence linked past and present, creating a sense that the home is not only inhabited by the living, but shaped by those who came before. The fire becomes a thread, connecting moments across time, each act of tending reinforcing that connection. This perspective transforms the idea of home from something temporary into something enduring, a space that grows through repetition, through care, through the accumulation of daily life. It also reflects a subtle understanding of responsibility, that what we do within a space does not disappear, but lingers, influencing what comes next, shaping the atmosphere that others will inherit. Thus, the story of the Kamado spirit stands as a reflection of home as living present, of the way life grows through what is tended, respected, and remembered. It remembers that sanctuary is not simply created through structure, but through behavior, through the consistency of care, through the attention given to the smallest, most ordinary acts. In every moment where we prepare food with intention, where we clean a space with awareness, where we bring harmony into our environment rather than disorder, there is a quiet acknowledgement of this spirit, a presence that does not demand recognition, yet responds to it, reminding us that home is not just where we live, but what we cultivate again and again through the way we show up within it. Story 4. The Domovoi, the spirit who keeps a house alive. In the quiet wooden houses of Slavic lands where winters stretch long and the line between the seen and unseen has always been understood as thin, there exists a presence that does not live outside the home but within it. This is a domovoi, a household spirit believed to dwell near the hearth, beneath the floor, or tucked into the unseen corners where warmth gathers and life quietly sustains itself. Unlike wandering spirits or distant gods, the domovoi is bound to the home itself, to the family who lives there, and to the condition in which that home is kept. He is not a visitor, but a resident, a guardian whose role is not to rule, but to maintain, to observe, and to respond. Often described as small, bearded, and resembling the elder of the household. The domovoi reflects continuity, ancestry, and the idea that the home is not only inhabited by the living, but shaped by those who came before. His presence is not constant in form, but constant in awareness, felt in subtle ways. In the creak of wood, the shift of objects, the sense that the house itself is watching, remembering, and reacting. The relationship between the household and the domovoi is not passive, but reciprocal, shaped by care, respect, and behavior. A well-kept home, one where people treat each other with consideration, where the hearth is tended, where food is prepared with intention, invites the domovoi's protection. In such spaces, he is believed to guard against misfortune, to warn of danger, sometimes appearing in dreams or making quiet disturbances to alert the family of imbalance or impeding harm. Small offerings, bread, milk, or a place set near the hearth, may be given not as obligation, but as acknowledgement, a gesture that recognizes the presence sharing the space. Yet, the domovoi is not blindly benevolent. If the household falls into neglect, disorder, or conflict, his nature can shift. He may become restless, creating disturbances, moving objects, making noise, not out of cruelty, but as a reflection of the imbalance within the home itself. In this way, the domovoi does not impose harmony, but mirrors it, responding to the environment created by those who live there, reinforcing the idea that a home is shaped not only by its structure, but by the behavior that fills it. There is also within the domovoi story a deep connection to lineage and continuity. He is often considered tied to the ancestors of the household, a keeper of memory who carries the imprint of generations within the space. When families move to a new home, traditions sometimes included inviting the domovoi to come with them, symbolically transferring warmth from the old hearth to the new, ensuring that the protective presence remained unbroken. This act reflects a belief that home is not confined to a building, but carried through relationship, through memory, through the unseen bonds that connect past and present. The domovoi becomes a bridge, holding the essence of what has been while shaping what continues. His presence transforms a home into something living, something responsive, something that holds history within its walls and floors. There is also within the domovoi story a deep connection to lineage and continuity. He is often considered tied to the ancestors of the household, a keeper of memory who carries the imprint of generations within the space. When families move to a new home, traditions sometimes included inviting the domovoi to come with them, symbolically transferring warmth from the old hearth to the new, ensuring that the protective presence remained unbroken. This act reflects a belief that home is not confined to a building, but carried through relationship, through memory, through the unseen bonds that connect past and present. The domovoi becomes a bridge, holding the essence of what has been while shaping what continues. His presence transforms the home into something living, something responsive, something that holds history within its walls and floors, reminding those within it that they are part of something ongoing, something that extends beyond their own moment. Thus, the story of the domovoi stands as a reflection of home as living awareness, of the way life grows through what is maintained, respected, and remembered. It reminds that a house does not become a sanctuary on its own, but through the care given within it, through the relationships nurtured, through the consistency of attention to both space and behavior. In every moment where we clean with intention, where we create harmony instead of conflict, where we treat our environment as something that responds to us rather than something we simply occupy, there is the echo of Domovoy's presence, a quiet guardian who does not demand recognition, yet responds to it, reminding us that home is not still or silent, but alive, shaped continuously by the way we choose to live within it. Daily Thread for May 26th. Home is built through what you tend. What you care for begins to care for you. Small acts of attention create lasting safety. The energy within a space reflects those within it. Consistency is the quiet architect of peace. What you return to becomes your foundation. Sanctuary is something you participate in. A home becomes alive when you do.